Hi there! So today we are going to be talking about the proposal. This is your second major writing assignment of the semester, part of Project 2. So this presentation is just going to go over all of the details of the project so you can better understand what you'll be turning in. So for your second major writing assignment, you are creating a proposal. So this proposal, this professional document, should address a local UNM or Albuquerque problem. It should be about 5 to 7 pages in length and follow all genre expectations. And you also need to include 2 graphic elements that you create yourself. Along with your proposal, you'll be creating a multimodal supplemental component that will be accompanying the document. So this could be something like a PSA, an advertisement, a brochure, newsletter, something like that. And we'll go over some more examples in just a minute. You also need to follow all the genre expectations for whatever medium you decide to use for your multimodal component. And you need to think of this component as providing support for your actual proposal. So these two should be related in some way, shape, or form. And then the third thing you will be turning in is a reflective memo that is 500 words in length, and again follows those genre expectations for a memo, thinking back to our very first Project 0, when we were talking about those correspondence materials. So what do you necessarily need to include in the proposal? You need to have your introduction, current situation and problem, your project plan, your qualifications, cost and benefits, and at least 2 graphic elements. Your introduction should be introducing what this document is, what the purpose is, kind of briefly going over all the key components. And then you'll move into a discussion of the current situation or problem. This is where you go into the causes and effects, really painting a clear picture for your audience so they can better understand what's going on and can see why maybe it needs to be solved. And then you'll move into your project plan or solution. This should be in clear steps, and it should obviously be coming back and corresponding to the problem at hand. So the two should obviously be related. You should be showing how you're planning on solving it, and very clear steps that illustrate how this is working to solve the problem. You should think of your project plan as having already had the money. So you're writing to your audience, giving them a picture of, okay, if you give me this money, here's what the plan will be, and here's how we're going to act this out. So you do not need to include funding or trying to attain that sort of stuff. This is giving them an idea of what the plan is once the money is there. After your solution, you're going to go over your qualifications. This really sells who you are and why you're the right one to solve this problem. The qualification section really depends on what your situation is and what your plan is. You can write as yourself, thinking about qualifications as you as a student. That makes you an appropriate person to be a part of this proposal. You could represent a nonprofit organization that maybe is already addressing some issues. For example, I've had proposals for students trying to solve Albuquerque homelessness, and they represent organizations like Joy Junction. Or you can, represent a student group or be a part of the department. You can think of other experts that would be on your team. All these sorts of things work together, and it really is dependent on what your project plan itself is and what it is you're trying to solve. And then you'll conclude with the cost and benefits in your proposal. The cost are this will give your audience a very clear idea of how much things are going to cost, break down everything, how the money is going to be used, and then you'll bring it back and alleviate some of the pain of the cost with the benefits. How is this going to help solve the problem directly, looking towards the future, really motivating them to see that this is the right plan, this is what we need to do. And then, of course, you'll create 2 graphic elements that'll be intertwined somewhere in the document. You can have a chart maybe outlining the cost. You can have a graph maybe describing the problem, anything like that. So the big thing is they need to be of your own creation. You can create them in Microsoft Excel or Word. There's 2 other sites too, Infogram or Canva, where you can create these sorts of charts or graphs to better illustrate the problem. Here's an example here for how food and different materials are, wasted in the United States. So it uses 2 pie charts to break down, who's wasting it or what exactly is being wasted. I'm fine with your graphic elements if you're using data that is pulled from another source. The big thing is you're actually just creating the graphic itself by yourself. So you don't have to necessarily go out and do that primary research and find that material. You can if you would like, but that's not required. If you find a great report or something already out there, maybe listing how many homeless people are out there in Albuquerque, you can use that data to create your own graph as long as you're citing that material. So a big thing about this document is you need to think about audience. You should have a very specific audience in mind, and that is all dependent on your situation that you choose to write for. So some possible audiences that you can think of for writing a proposal would be writing to the UNM Dean of Students or a department head. Maybe you're trying to get funding for a research project that addresses a certain problem. So maybe you're writing to your UNM department. You could be writing to City Council or the Albuquerque Mayor. You could be writing to a grant foundation, something like McCune or Daniels Fund. There's quite a few different foundations. These are groups of people who have lots of money and are wanting to give it out to different nonprofits or different organizations that are working to solve issues around the community. You can be thinking about small business owners or investors if you're maybe trying to create your own business, or really anyone else that you can think of as long as it's an appropriate audience for a proposal. But you do need to have a specific one in mind as you're creating the document. So a big change or something that we're going to be practicing more and more with throughout the semester is the idea of multimodality. So this is going to come in the form of your supplemental material. So we've already created and worked with some multimodal elements in our first project as we were creating our websites that were housing our electronic portfolios. So now we're thinking in a different context, still using this idea of multimodality where we're working with these different, images and sounds and things like that. So here's a few different examples of places you can take this. One is you can have maybe a PSA poster campaign, thinking of maybe trying to inform audiences about your problem at hand. When you're thinking about your audience for your multimodal component, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same audience as you're writing to for this proposal. It can be if you would like, but if, say, I'm writing to a specific foundation to get funding for, maybe childhood literacy, maybe I want to have a PSA campaign out there for parents around neighborhoods, so maybe these are around at schools, something like that. So your audience should, again, be very specific for your multimodal component, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the same as your proposal itself. So when we're thinking of a PSA poster campaign, we want this to be, carefully balanced with text and images. You need to have at least one poster, but you're more than welcome to create a series if you would like, if that kind of helps you with your creativity, if you're wanting to showcase this. And then you can create it using Microsoft Word or Publisher, PowerPoint, or even Canva as a good source. And that will just help you figure out how to balance the page there with images and also text. But again, it needs to be part of a series if you do decide to create more than one. And if you're thinking a series, we're thinking, okay, this is, no more. And then we have a little bit of a change here with the different quotes and the different actors and images. So you just want to make it seem like it is part of a series. Another option you have is having a PSA radio broadcast. This should be something that would be, again, maybe describing the problem or trying to have this as something that needs to be aware for the public. It could be, also talking about the solution. That decision is up to you. But you need to have your voice and one other auditory element when you are recording. You can use Audacity or another recording software. I know, Apple has a few different built-in ones already for you to use, and I'm sure your PCs will have them, or a PC will have them as well. The big thing with your PSA radio broadcast is it needs to be at least a minute in length, and you can look on our student gallery on our Learn page to see some examples of previous PSAs in the radio broadcast form. You could also maybe do an advertisement. This is again where you're balancing those images and text. You can use the same softwares that I mentioned before for the PSAs, and you need to have at least one that's part of a series. And it needs to be part of a series if you decide to do more than one. But the big difference here between a PSA and an advertisement is you're not necessarily illustrating a problem, you're maybe encouraging a solution. So for this example, we have the Animal Humane Society of New Mexico trying to encourage folks in Albuquerque to adopt a pet. And they're using this as a perfect pet campaign, trying to say that there's the right one out there for everybody. So a little bit different than a PSA, but we see some similar elements. Another thing that you could do is creating a brochure. We've all seen these in various locations, usually when you're trying to learn more about a specific organization. So this could be a brochure, maybe, talking more about maybe a certain problem, or talking about you as a group, or whatever organization you're representing, if that's something that you chose to do. And you're working both with images, graphic elements, and text, and trying to figure out how to balance this on the page without being overwhelming to your reader. An example I have here, and it's also available on your on your prompt, is one for the Manzanita Counseling Center at University of New Mexico. So this is one that's obviously online, but they have them in their counseling center as well. And we have this trifold design and lots of information here about who the group is as an organization, what they offer, things like that are all really important to have and think about. All right, excuse me. And then the next option that you do have is a radio, or as a newsletter. So a newsletter can come in, both through email format like we have here, or something that would be mailed out. And then this has definitely more text than images, but it is, again, balanced there. You see that it's very easy to navigate the page. We're usually learning about what's currently going on with this organization. So we have an example here with the American Red Cross. Usually any nonprofit or group will have a newsletter trying to talk about what's going on within that month or year, just to let their readers know. And this can again be created with Microsoft Word or Publisher. There's already many templates built in there for you. Here's an example of one that would be maybe in print form. Obviously we have lots of great images and a use of text playfully on the page to grab readers' attention. So that's all I have for now. Remember, if you have any questions, to post them to the Writers Lounge, and you want to make sure you go ahead and take your quiz that's associated with this video. All right, thanks.